Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast reviewing Main Range from Big Finish number 186, Tombship, being the second of the 3 5-Doctor trilogies. Does that make sense? I'm sure it does. I'm sure you're with me. As I'm sure I said when I reviewed the Tom Baker story, you wait for months for stories with pyramids in, and then 2 come along at once. That's not a phrase you get to use very often, so forgive me for using it twice. The TARDIS brings the Doctor and Nyssa, because it follows on straight from Moonflesh, to a giant floating pyramid. Yes, you've got ringing bells of Sutekh and that sort of thing as sirens. And you know, the sirens aren't even, to the best of my knowledge and best of my memory, mentioned. Which is odd, because you really would mention them. But that's fine. This giant floating pyramid, reminiscent of the ones out of, well, very, very reminiscent of the ones out of Stargate, is basically a tomb. A tomb of the last of the race that could have rivaled the Time Lords, so obviously we've never heard of them before. This place is full of traps, full of the sort of thing you would find in the movie The Mummy, but also it's very, very Doctor Who. Inside this massive tomb is a long-dead God King, who will one day be reborn into the light. It's a gigantic structure, it's travelling through dead space, and there are also, with most things involving a tomb, a family of tomb robbers, particularly well organised, particularly well funded tomb robbers, and a third party. Or perhaps is it a fourth? I'll get back to you on that one. That's your basic setup. I don't want to go into any more detail than that because it would be spoilerific. Out of the 3 stories, this is perhaps the strongest. And, rather surprisingly, it's been written by 2 people. There isn't a lot of Big Finish out there written by a pair of people. This one's George Renee and Emma Beebe. It's a small cast, so you've got that whole base under siege thing. You can imagine it being shot in studio, with with no external shooting. But of course, it was only ever recorded on audio. There is a turnaround halfway through that is so impressive that it's not actually mentioned in the casting. And I, for one, will not be spoiling it. I will, however, be saying that it was really worth listening to, and I kind of punched the air to think that this would be happening. So yeah, this is a good story. It's not the longest of reviews, suffice to say that it is well worth experiencing. Here's the trailer, and I'll speak to you next time. Be seeing you. On Saturday, August the 30th, at the Derby Inn Quad, Hooverville 6 will take place. Guests include Peter Davison, David Troughton, Michael Troughton making an exceptionally rare appearance together, producer Derek Sherwin, and musical maestro Dominic Glynn, Terry Davros Malloy, and Deborah Watling, and Sinead Michael from Series 5 of Sarah Jane Adventures. And as always, a gaggle of podcasters and merchandise dealers' room. Tickets are priced between £10 and £40. Visit the Derby Quad website for more details and to order tickets.
Very advanced. Perhaps we're underground.
Perhaps.
This is a tomb. You've no business being here if you didn't come to die.
There's no need to shoot! We're not armed. We're not here to hurt anybody. You see those marks in the stone on the wall here?
We've seen them all over this ship. What are they? Some kind of code?
More like notes.
Notes?
The God King dies, and we mourn in the darkness left behind.
They're coming from all over!
Let them have it!
You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its connected properties are copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Whostrology, a Time Traveller's Almanac, is available through Telos Publishing or Amazon. Visit www.whostrology.com for further information. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.